You're listening to the RE Social Podcast with your hosts, Andrew and Vince from OnV Invest. For more information, go to onvinvest.com.
What's up, you guys? Welcome to another episode of RE Social Podcast. Today, we have a special guest from the East Coast, Mr. Curtis May. Welcome to the show, man.
East Coast. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. I'm excited to actually talk to you because, usually we don't get, financial guys like you. So, you're not off the Wall Street. But so for people who don't know, can you give like a 90-second intro of who you are?
Yeah. So hi, my name is Curtis May, and I'm married, 3 daughters for 26 years, and I've basically been in self-employed all my life. I got my license to do my insurance license, and a couple years after that, my investment securities license in like 87, got licensed in 85, and basically been doing it ever since. I was blessed because I never got that go get a good job talk. My dad told me never making money work for somebody else. So that's my background. But I'm different now. I used to be like Dave Ramsey on steroids. Really, I own a income management business. Okay. And I teach holistic, what I call principles-based financial planning. And so it's really designed. What I found is that being in business, typical business advice is bad for entrepreneurs, bad for real estate investors. And because it's literally giving your control of your money over to somebody else. So I've learned that. I read a little purple book that what everybody has is, if you interview people in their background, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah.
And and I'm a nerd. So if I read something, then I read the bibliography, and then I discovered about a few months after that, Becoming Your Own Banker by R. Nelson Nash. So I teach something called infinite banking. And that kind of changed my career. It took a minute for me to get it. And now I've kind of codified it into a framework that we teach. And, I'm helping people. They want to buy real estate. I help them buy more and become more efficient. They want to expand their business. I help them do that, have access to the capital so they can do even, more of what they want to do. And that's my story. I'm sticking to it. So I do that, and I have fun. I like traveling and working out.
Nice, man. Yeah, you look like you work out, man. You're working out 3 days a week or what?
4.
4? Nice, man. Good.
Sometimes 5. I do something almost every day because I walk I had this rucker vest. So I'll walk. Like this morning, I didn't go to the gym. I just wore my rucking vest and walked about 3 miles, and because I was working something out in my head. So I'll listen to audiobooks, or I went to a workshop this past weekend. So I recorded it on Evernote. And so I just walk in. I was listening to some of the lectures over again to kind of sort them out in my head. So,
Yeah, it does help. We're very similar in many ways in terms of like walking and listening to podcasts. I also like to get into, a lot of people nowadays listen to the short highlights. They want to do the 30-second clip. I tend to go the opposite. I like to listen to the whole thing, and then I try to pick my own stuff. So it kind of gets ingrained.
Because we have a microwave thing. You got to go deeper into stuff and let it marinate. Or a mentor would say, rumigate. You got to rumigate on stuff, and then I'll listen, and then I'll listen to it again. I'll listen to it with my notepad if I find something interesting. Even an audiobook, I'll bookmark it. And what did he say? And I'll get to my journal and take notes on it, because I'm a financial educator. So if you're going to be in the knowledge for profit business, you need to be in the knowledge acquisition business first.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I took some notes when, we were talking offline before the call. You said, budgeting don't work. Can you explain what that means?
Yeah. So budgeting is like driving your car down the highway, but you're looking through a rearview mirror. Mm-hmm. So you know what I mean? So you're driving and you're looking at history. Same thing if you're in business, look at your P&L, which you should do at least once a month, but you're looking at what happened, right? Sure. And so what we teach is you don't have to be that complicated, because what happens is budgeting, it's like dieting. Nobody wants to do that. And it focuses you more on a scarcity mindset. What can I cut? You can't go to Starbucks. You can't do this. What I teach people is how to map their cash flow. We call it cash flow mapping. And so our tagline is tell your money where to go instead of asking where it went, right? And so we'll teach like a framework of having multiple accounts, having money go into a reservoir account. And then our goal is, because right now, the way it's structured, saving is not the default position, spending it. So if you earn money, money ends up in your checking account, you're going to spend it because it's a spending account. Right. And so so right now, I was looking at the Fred website, the average rate for savings in the United States is less than 5% of their income. So what if you could flip the switch and then you have money come into an income, you get your income, it goes into a reservoir, and then it stays there. And then from the reservoir, you consciously spend, you decide, okay, I need $6,000 a month to run my household. And all you do is send that to your regular accounts that you're already using. So if your spread is you got 8,000, then you have 2,000 left over. So if you don't send it to your spending account, guess what? You won't spend it. And then what we're finding is our clients are leaving money in that reservoir. And then we meet with them quarterly. We look at the decision. So we send it, we teach people how to be their own bank. They could send it to brokerage accounts. They could send it to cash flow engines. We call it a wealth coordination account. So when because savings has got to come first, right? So I teach people because you're going to make a lot of money. So if you don't keep it, and the way the default structure of budgeting is not designed for you to keep it. So I want people focused on abundance, on how you should be thinking about how can I grow my means, not how can I cut back. So that's and so we do the same thing on the business side, but I show people like who are in real estate, okay, you're buying what we call cash flow engines. Well, how do you separate? You need separate accounts for that. Well, how do you bring that over? Use that to buy more real estate, velocity. See, we're taught to accumulate and let money stagnate. What you have to do is not focus on accumulation, but focus on velocity. So the framework is cash, get some cash. The verb of saving, right? Buy an asset that generates what? More cash, because income follows assets, and just keep, Burr method or syndications, whatever. But that cash, it should cash flow, right? If it don't cash flow, it's not a good asset, right? So the people that find me don't generally invest for capital gains. They're looking to become financially free. Like if you're in real estate, your goal is hopefully financial freedom, which is passive income greater than your expenses, right? Without your labor, right? And so you have to focus on that. But it starts with when money hits your personal economies. This is where the game starts. When money hits your account, every time you get paid, there are decisions that have to be made with every check, right? And so most people don't make those decisions. So money just slips through their fingers. And so what we want to do, we want to teach people that, and it's right out of The Richest Man in Babylon, part of all you earn is yours to keep, right? Because that kept money is what you use to build wealth. But if you don't do that, it's tough. And so budgeting tends to look backwards. I want people to look forward. So it's all right, we're going to send money to your wealth building account. We're going to do this. And then because what will happen is, and if we're on audio, you won't be able to see this, but what people do, they generally get cost of living raises, and then their spending goes up in lockstep with their income, right? And so it's called Parkinson's law. It's income rises to meet expenses. So if your income goes up lockstep, well, if you can spread that gap, your income goes up, but you don't automatically have your spending, you buy a bigger house, you buy more cars, and that spread between income and expenses is where wealth is created. And so we start people with creating a better cash flow structure. And then that's step one. It's like get a cash flow structure that allows you to, over time, keep your spending in check and grow your wealth, and then use the money that you're saving to buy more wealth creating things.
Yeah.
And so budgeting is the opposite approach. Is focused on scarcity, is focused on cutting back, and you need to focus on velocity and expanding your means, if you will. That's kind of a long answer, but I'm sorry, but that's
No, it's all good. We like to get deep here too. So you're saying focus on expanding your income than just trying to reduce expenses too?
Yeah, I mean, you can't get, it's an old saying. That people say, Curtis, I don't know what you're talking about. You can't get blood from a turnip. Like you can't cut but so much.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. There's not, I mean, if you look at your stuff, it's not, unless you're a spendthrift, you're not going to eat less. You're not going to spend less on groceries. Like I don't like that whole fire movement. I'm not trying to live a lesser life. You know, I don't want to retire. Retirement means to put out of use. It does not, that's a man-made socialist construct. Okay. What you
Mm-hmm.
want is, I think, is financial freedom, which is a capacity, right? You've got assets that generate more income than your expenses, right? So you want to focus on that. So you want to keep more of your money so you can focus on expanding your mean and really build a business or build a life, build systems so you don't want to retire from anything because you're not working that much anyway.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Now, I write down stuff. I did write down, a lot of the listeners who are listening, they're not making, $200,000, $300,000. So let's say, they're living in California and they're making 70K barely, skating by. Now,
Mm-hmm.
how do you expect these guys to save, and then to invest? It's just such a long term thing that you have to think about. It's just much easier for me to just buy the car or just go to the, spend $500 on um, a meal because it makes me feel good today. But what we're talking about is much longer play. So how do you tell these guys, like, how do you get into that mindset? That's a very important thing.
Do you want to be rich, poor, or middle class?
Yeah.
I mean, that's at a CC. It's not that you can't save. One, I wouldn't feel bad because society is so easy to spend money, right?
Yeah.
You can tap your phone, so it's so easy to spend money. So that's why you have to separate savings. You need to create a thing where, okay, like if you can save 20% of your income, I don't care what you do the rest of it. Like I don't care about cutting. Just pay yourself first,
Yeah.
right? So that's a decision, right? You've got to say, okay, money comes. So without even using the reservoir, which is a fintech app we use, just
Uh-huh.
say this. So we teach our clients to create a separate account called a wealth coordination account. Okay.
Okay.
So, or wealth capture, whatever you want to call it. And so now my goal for people, my first principle is to save 10, 15, 20% of your or more of your gross income. Okay. So if they're making, what'd you say? Let's say 100, just for easy math. So let's
Okay.
say they're making 100. Can you save 15,000 a year? Or I don't care what it is, honestly. I don't care what you start with. I said I just care that you start. But what happens is 15,000 divided by 26 is 576 a pay,
Mm-hmm.
right? So can you put money into so you got to see, savings has to be automatic and systematic. See, what people think is saving, funding their 401k is
Mm-hmm.
not saving, right? Because it has risk. See, when I say savings, I mean safe, liquid, accessible, guaranteed. What people do is they put money in jail for 20 years. So now you got all your money going to a 401k, but you have no money. You have no liquidity. So the first time you have a big ticket problem, what do you have to do? Go into debt.
Yeah.
Okay. If you don't manage cash flow, you're going to go into debt because you're using future earnings as collateral because you want to feel good. So you have to decide, okay, do I want to be financially independent? That's the first decision.
Yeah.
Okay. And so if you want to do that, then you have to align your actions with your goals.
Yeah.
Because most people it's hard to reach a target you don't have, right? So they're just working. Young people get their first paycheck. They think you have to opt out of a 401k. So now you're putting money away. You're 23. I don't let my daughter fund her 401k yet because I said, listen, if you make $5,000 a month, for example, I'll use real numbers. I want you to have your emergency fund should be 2 to 3 months of your pay, right? So I don't even talk to me about investing in anything till you have about $15,000 savings, right?
Yeah.
That
What
you can
about for
get
the
to.
what about for the free match your daughter might get? You want to do that,
Yeah,
right?
up to the match, but past the,
Okay.
yeah, no. So if they have, but I don't even let her do that yet.
Mm.
Okay, because she doesn't have any money. So I'm like, all right, we got to build up your liquidity, and then you can get the match. You probably ain't going to be there 5 years. I mean, so what? You're going to roll it over into something else anyway.
Yeah.
Based upon way people's work environment, but you need liquidity. But yes, I pass the match.
Mm-hmm.
There's better things to do, especially your listeners, because they want to do real estate. So you
Yeah.
can't do real estate from your 401k. So why are you putting all your money in there if you say you need access to capital
Yeah.
to put money into real assets?
They let you borrow a little bit. You can borrow 50K
Yeah,
from your
you can
401k.
borrow up to $50,000 or one half of the account balance, whichever is less.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Right. So you can, but there's better places to store your capital where you don't have those type of restrictions. Then you get double taxed on it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
You got a really short window to pay it back, like 5 years.
Yeah.
And if you leave your job with the loan outstanding, it's counted as a distribution. I mean, it's not bad, but there's better places to collateralize or leverage your savings, your capital. It's not savings though, but your capital. And so we get into that. We call it the private reserve strategy. And so, they're all just tools, right? So what you got to do is know product. See, most people. So here's what we say. We say, look, this is what I take it to my clients, just to give you an analogy. I say, look, let's say you got a chance to go play in the Masters, right? Golf's most prestigious event. And I got two things to give you, but you can only have one of them.
Yeah.
And I could give you the clubs of any of the best players on the tour. I could give you Tiger's clubs. I could, give you, or I could magically touch you on the shoulder and I could give you his swing. I could give you his muscle memory reflex. I could give you his knowledge of the game. Which one would you rather have?
Yeah, I want the touch, bro.
Right. You want the swing, right? And so now in the financial world, most people ask me, they ask me club questions, right? So the club manufacturers are the financial institutions, the mortgage companies, the mutual fund companies, the insurance companies, right? And so most people, what they do, they sell clubs. They're club manufacturers, they're product manufacturers. Most of the reps are club salespeople. They're manufacturers reps to sell this mutual fund or this insurance. And you need clubs to play. And I sell clubs too, just to be clear. Okay. But the clubs don't matter until you have a plan, right? So it's the swing.
Yeah.
And then you pick the clubs. Once you figure out where you want to go, okay, Curtis, I want to be financially free in 10 years or less. Well, is a mutual fund or maxing out your 401k match or no match? Is that going to get you there? No, it's not. Okay. Because you can't control the market. So you're saving in a fluctuating market that goes up or down. You're tied up your money. So you're just focused on buying and holding. There's no velocity. There's no leverage there. Right. And then you're saving dollars that the longer you hold them, the value, the purchasing power goes down.
Yeah. So it's a hedge against inflation and you hold long term. That's the game they play. And what do you think of
it's
Roth?
not a hedge against inflation.
Yeah. What do you think of Roth though? Is you prefer
Roth
that?
is a step in the right direction, but there's better things you can do than that.
Yeah. So what would you suggest? I think you're going to talk about a high cash value whole life insurance policy stuff.
Well,
like that,
so here's the framework. Yes, but that's
I do have that too. Just a disclaimer. I
okay.
have that,
So what happens is, principles drive strategy, right?
Yes.
So principles: save, maximum protection, full replacement of assets at death. I can unpack these later if you want. Liquidity, 6 to 12 months of liquidity.
Sure.
And velocity, which is an emphasis on cash flow, not capital gains. Okay. Principles drive strategy. So the strategy, we call it the money for life: earn, bank, borrow, spend it, repay it. But IBC, right? Infinite banking, properly. Well, so that's a strategy of money management. It's not a product, right? And then the product to fulfill the strategy, which precedes that principle, is saving 15, 20% of your income. The best product for that strategy is properly structured whole life with a mutual company.
Yeah.
Not IUL, not, all the other stuff these new jacks think they want to do, but a lot of them don't really understand how they work. And that's what they want to sell, but because it pays the most, but that's not the best club for that strategy.
Yeah.
It may have place, but I don't think it does.
I'm trying to think of my guy. You probably know him. I had him on my podcast too. He works with Brent Kessler. I think that's the company.
Oh, yeah. I know him. I know Brent. I know Brent. I met Brent's daughter at a thing.
Yeah,
Chris Noggle.
yeah,
Chris.
Chris,
Chris is a bad man. Yeah, he's
yeah, yeah,
brilliant. Yeah.
yeah. So
I don't know him either, but I watched some of his stuff. But
yeah.
he's got it going on.
Yeah, I like what he does, and I put some money in it, and have a life insurance. My sister has one. A couple of my buddies, I let them
So
do
you
that
got
too.
it. You're on the right track. So all you have to
Yeah.
do is make money, right? Because now you got a place to store it, and
Hmm.
then the banking system,
Yeah.
powered by the life insurance, becomes your second business
Yeah.
to finance all your other stuff. See, because Nelson Nash would say everybody needs two businesses: the one that gives them a paycheck, and the banking business, right? Because
Hmm.
if you could control the banking function, it's like flying a plane. He was a pilot with a perpetual tailwind. Everything you do gets better.
Yeah. It was really interesting. This was I was researching this a few years. You tell me because you're a little bit more of an expert on this. Is I had a credit card bill. I believe it was $40,000, and it was coming due because I played the 0% game for a while, and then it was coming due. I think it was like 25-30%. And I always have the money, but I'll push it out till I can do something else with it. And then I somehow I was able to get a hold of Chris, and then I talked to him, and then what we did was I put the 40 or $45,000 into a whole life policy, and then I called and took 90% of it out in like a month and paid off the credit card. And then every year, I mean, I put like 6 grand in it or something, nothing crazy. But I do have a life insurance policy. My credit card is paid off, right? That at that time. And yeah, I owe the 40 grand to the life insurance. But even if I never paid it back, I know Chris is like, bro, you gotta pay some of it back. That's the best way. But even if I don't, and if I died, my sister will get $1 million and some cash value because it still grows, and I don't have the credit card. Otherwise, I would have just paid it from the bank to pay off my credit card, and the money is gone. Is that accurate? Is that good?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's what we do.
Okay.
We have a whole program around it called Debt Free for Life.
Hmm.
And yeah, because you think about it, what happens is most people give most of their money away. We call them wealth transfers, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
So there's five wealth transfers: how people pay their mortgage, taxes, how they fund qualified plans, how they pay for educational expenses, and how they finance things. So credit cards, car loans. And so what happens is a transfer, meaning it's leaving your asset column going to somebody else's asset column. And so not just the money, so it's not just the 40,000. If you'd have paid it off, your cash is gone and you just gave it to the Visa or American Express or whoever, right? And
Yeah.
so, but it's worse than that, right? It's the opportunity cost on the 40, which,
Mhm.
so opportunity cost meaning, let's just make up a number. Let's say you could get 7% on your money, right?
Sure.
So if you use the rule of 72, money at 7% doubles every 10 years. So if you had 40,000, you gave it away. So you gave up the opportunity for that money to work for you, but now it's working for because it's still doubling. It just ain't doubling for you, right? So in 7 years or 10 years, your 40 would be worth 80, your 80 would be worth 160, 320, so that money that never happens. And so what people have to look at, every decision that you make, you can spend it or save it. Spent dollars are gone forever, but it's the opportunity cost is always spiraling out of control. So one of the things the policy does is, so you're able to collateralize your cash value.
Hmm.
Your bank, I'm doing air quotes, guys, has, because banking is a concept, it's right, it's just creating a pool of capital that you control that can move at cost to meet some needs you have, right? So you take a loan, your bank buy, because see, to a bank, a loan is an asset.
Yeah.
Your savings is a liability to a bank. It's expense. You have to pay interest on it. So if you owned your own bank, you should be your own best customer. So now you should pay that off. You should make the payment, the same payments you're going to make to them. You should be making back to your pool of capital, even though the money might cost you 4 or 5%. If you were paying 15, 18, 23%, you should pay it back at that rate. Don't cheat. We call it stealing the peas. Don't steal the peas. Don't cheat the system and not pay yourself back retail. And all money goes into policy is premiums. You're not literally paying interest, but what you're doing is you can drive more capital into your policy because you can create velocity through simultaneous use. So the system should be the foundation the center of your financial plan, building a pool of capital that you control, because from that you can invest. I got clients that do private lending. I've got an estimated tax bill coming up. We have like 6 policies. One of them I just use for estimated taxes, right? So we're gonna file it. I got a $13,000 bill waiting for him, but I have the money in the policy, right? So rather than draining my tank, my liquidity, and giving it to the Treasury Department and the state, I am going to render under Caesar what is Caesar, but I'm going to take a loan, I'm going to collateralize my savings, pay them. My money is still growing uninterrupted. And then out of my business cash flow, I will create a 6-month payoff plan. So when the next time I have to pay a tax, I've paid that money down, I've added new money, I'll take another loan, and then my money continues to grow uninterrupted. So it's really a money management system. See, people think it's about insurance, but it's not. It's that it just, you can do it with CDs, you can do it with a brokerage account. It just works better with life insurance because of the nature of a properly structured policy. But you don't need a policy to be the bank.
Yeah, it's very interesting. A lot of people won't explain it very good, and I think you did a good job. Just for listeners to understand is, the money that I borrowed to pay off my credit card, I still owe it to myself. However, what I like about it, you don't know that I have a loan on myself. My credit is not hit. I don't have to pay it back. I should. It's better practice, but I can just die without paying it back, and my sister will still get whatever $1
You're
million.
not being a good banker if you do,
Yeah.
and you don't
Mhm.
owe it. Just I'm the word police, right? So you don't
Yeah.
owe it to yourself. You borrowed the insurance company's money,
Yeah.
and you have to pay back the insurance company. They're using your cash value as collateral.
Yeah.
So that way,
Mhm.
when you die, they will just, since the death benefit is security for the loan, if you haven't paid it back, they'll deduct it off of the death
Yes.
benefit.
Yeah. So for me, it's like, I run a business. I got a bunch of houses and, I only make certain amounts of money because I have a day job too. So
Mhm.
like you're saying, we will talk about the business next. This is
Mhm.
why that's a good segue. My
Mhm.
real estate, I have a $10 million portfolio. My sister and I, my best friend, we own 70% of it. Right. And
Awesome.
it has loans on it. I have $7 million of loan, but there's some equity in it. But that business, even though it spits out gross income of over 3/4 of $1 million, like $700,000 plus, I
Mhm.
actually don't take home even like it's nothing meaningful that it actually helps me with, but the taxes and the equity build is good, right? So now I'm considering, I used all these products to pay the devs and stuff out, but I am looking for businesses to buy to do the cash flow. Hence, my segue into I want to ask you about, because you said your family is involved with businesses. Now, can you tell the listeners what kind of businesses and why businesses? And you made a good point. It's hard to catch it if you're not really familiar with it. You said, real estate is good investment, but you're locking money for decades, sometimes more, right? So in the meantime, you might want to have businesses to kind of just take you through those period of time. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, your fastest path to cash is business, I think.
Yes, I
Right.
agree. I agree.
And so I want a great book to get like clarity around this. I think my favorite Rich Dad book is the third book, Rich Dad's Guide to Investing.
Okay.
And it really goes in on business, and the purpose of business is to buy real estate.
And
Okay.
I stopped at cash flow quarter and I should have gone to the
Oh
next one.
yeah, that's the book. The next 2 books, Rich Dad's Guide to Investing and Who Took My Money, where it really goes in on velocity of money and the
Mm-hmm.
different, how you accumulation versus velocity. Those are that one. And then I would jump ahead to Why the Rich Get Richer, which I think is really written by Tom Wheelwright.
I
Uh,
love Tom. I like
yeah,
tax free wealth.
yeah. And but that being said, so I have a colleague of mine, Jim Oliver, that really we were on a trip together in Barcelona. And he was like, yeah, he because I haven't bought any business yet, but he uses his cash. It's like how people buy real estate with it. He buys businesses,
Okay.
okay, with this cash or a percent. Sometimes he'll buy them because what happens is it's your money. So that's why you have to save so that you have money. Like a lot of times with business, I studied Jay Abraham, you can buy them with an earnout, right? You don't have to pay cash. I've interviewed several people that what is his name? Carl Richards. He shows you how to buy them without cash or credit, because a lot of baby boomers want to get rid of their business, and buying is really the new starting, right? I've had people use it to buy franchises, right? So you got to figure out what you like, what industry you want to be in. You got to learn how to vet them.
I'm
But
still
you're right, I see. And then what happens is this: you because think of the policy as storage, right? So you still want to look, and then when you see something that you like, you have the capital to do it. So with us, I have I have practical wealth solutions, right? And so there's two sides of my business. So there's my practice where I work individually with clients and we help manage your income. We show them how to be the bank. We do holistic planning. We help them set up trust. I basically kind of build out their financial team. And then I have an agency I've just started building because these people keep asking to work with me. So it's like, all right, well, and so that started. I hadn't felt like being bothered till like this year, right? And so now I think that will be a $250,000 asset next year as I build or more, depending on my ability to hire and train people. And I'm a pretty good trainer, right? We've got another business, practical wealth education. So what I've been doing is I realize I have a certain amount of intellectual property. Gary Gunderson was at an event I was at this weekend. He says, listen, you've got, IP, and you can leverage your intellectual property. People will pay you for what you know. So I realize I'll break down, here's how I manage business cash flow. And I was talking to a mentor of mine, like, what? This is awesome, and I'm thinking it's no big deal. It's like, no, you need to be teaching this, right? And so I'm building a framework around it, and I will sell a high ticket offer around it because I've been studying Myron Golden and Daniel Priestley around using your intellectual property. So a lot of times y'all have stuff that you don't even need to come up with hundreds of thousands of dollars, but I have people buy laundry mats with get money from their 401k. There's a feature in there where you can use 401k money to buy a franchise. A lot of franchise consultants I've interviewed say, yeah, we help them. It's called a Rob or something like that. And you can, acquire or start your franchise with that kind of money. So a lot of times it's really just sitting down. All right, what am I trying to accomplish? Do I like business is the most complex, but if let's say you're you want to be in business, you've got a professional background, like an executive. Most of them don't want to just jump out there because most people are work processors, right? They go to work, they pay you, you get a check every other week, right? But when you're just straight out entrepreneur or even investor, you have to be a work creator. You've got to get customers. You have to, you've got to source leads. You got to lead everything, lead generation, lead conversion, lead fulfillment. So you're responsible for all of that. And some people aren't ready for that yet. They don't know how to do that yet, right? So a lot of times looking at franchises, or if you buy an existing business, they've already solved that. So if the owner is paying himself 200 grand a year, if you buy that business, guess what? That's your money. Now you may not want another job. So you can, let's say, all right, I want, you can promote somebody, pay them a 125 and you got 75,000 and you don't, not involved in operations at all. Now it's way more to it than that, but that's, but you could buy those. I know when I was in an entrepreneur group and this woman, she had a standing order with a business broker and her goal was that every year she bought a company that added on to, complemented what she was already doing. And she grew her business from about 400,000 to 8 million over about 5-6 years, just through acquisition.
Is that the cash flow or is it the worth of the businesses?
Cash flow.
Man, that's a lot.
That is a lot.
Wow,
Okay.
that's
It
crazy.
might be the worth, but that's a good question. I think she was describing it to me.
Either way, it's great.
It's great. Either way, in 5-6 years.
Yeah.
And but she would buy it, she didn't have to come up with, let's say it was a $2 million company. She didn't pay $2 million for it. She got it. You can finance it. You can, sometime a lot of it's owner financing.
Yeah.
It's like if you're doing lease options in real estate, you do the same thing in business. And then if you know a little about marketing, like if I bought a company, I teach a marketing system called which I learned from like a Jay Abraham protege. Whereas you can look at, business has a bunch of like assets that are not optimized. So a lot of times, if you look at the business, they've got stuff they're not doing. And if you're thinking, and they're tired, so the owner's like 68, they don't feel like doing that stuff. They're just making money, and the kids don't want the business. And so if you see their assets, they have a database they're not talking to. They've got, their sales assets are tired. They don't have a good website. You could probably make a couple tweaks and double the business in a year, right? And now you use that money to pay him off, right? Without coming up with any money. What's his name did that? Russell Brunson did that when he bought Dan Kennedy's company. He it was down. The people of private equity that ran into the ground. He bought it. He never said where he bought it from, but basically he fixed it, sold like 4,000 memberships, raised the price, and paid for what he paid for the company in 3 months. And everything else has been pure profit.
Yeah, I also see a lot of these athletes like Shaq. He owns like a bunch of franchises, right?
Shaq is the man. Shaq owns franchises. He owns
Magic
Marilyn
too,
Monroe
right?
images.
What's that?
He owns like the image from Marilyn Monroe.
Oh,
So
I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Kenny was talking about like Shaq is like playing dumb. Shaq owns everything, right?
Oh, Shaq's really smart, dude.
Shaq is really
looked at some of the
smart.
stuff.
Magic is my favorite
Magic too.
basketball player.
Yeah.
And he's making way more money now than he ever made playing basketball, right? Junior Bridgman, who people don't know, but I remember him. He's playing Milwaukee. He was just a journeyman, 6-man guy, good ball player, but he was in the 80s when they weren't making a lot of money, not the kind of money they make now. And he's probably almost the richest NBA player. What's his name? Vinny Mike from Detroit.
Yeah.
He owns that's Bing Steel. This is a guy from the 70s. He owns Bing Steel in Detroit. Then he owns like the parts for the automotive people and some other stuff. So he's got a multi-million-dollar.
Yeah, and it's funny because you see, that's I tell people like, no matter how big you get, I think Michael's business is like, his deal with Nike. That's the
And he owns this Charlotte, and he's got some other things going on. He's very low key, but he's making a lot of money. His stuff sells a lot.
Yeah, he's doing fine.
Yeah, he's all right.
Yeah, but what is interesting is if you look at stuff even who are on the top of the game like Tyson, right? He spent a lot of his money buying cars and stuff. He lost most of the money. And what's the guy who beat him, got his ear bit? He's lost everything.
Holyfield, yeah.
Holyfield, Evander, he's lost everything. And even Atlanta, he had to sell his home because they didn't invest their money. So it doesn't matter how much money you make. If you don't understand these concepts, you kind of just lose it.
You make his million, you spend it. Mike has gotten good people. He's got clarity. He's back.
He's back. I mean, he's fighting that kid, right, in November.
Yeah, but he's making money. He's got good business deals. He got a one-man show. He's dug himself out of the IRS stuff he was with. So unfortunately, he's the exception, not the rule. But I think some of the young guys are smarter. But I wish I could get in and talk to some of these guys. So if you're, the college guys with the NIL guys and gals, and just these guys, you're making money, but income is not wealth.
Yeah.
It is, you know what I mean? And so because the guys that are wealthy, they're the ones that's writing your check, right? And so if they can pay you $100 million, what are they worth? See, I look at that. Like can you pay somebody, $50 million over 3 years? What is the business generating? How are they? I want to study that guy. I don't care about an athlete because they have a job. They have a high paid job. So they're automatically losing half of the taxes, right? They need to get, and then so they're broke. They're not broke, but they will be broke if they don't understand that this is short shelf life to this money.
Yeah.
And, don't play in Canada, right? But let's say you make 50 million. Well, all right, just let's half that. That's 25 between state and federal. And then now you want to buy your mama a house and you want to carry an entourage of all your friends and you want to buy cars and you're broke. You're spending it. You can, what's that? Anton Walker made $100 million and was broke when he retired. Warren Sapp, the same thing, because they don't see, because what I would talk to them about is the principles, right? Save. Because see, what happens is you have these agents, they'll lock them up and they have them investing. Investing, if there's 5 things you do with money, investing is number 5. It is not number 1.
Yeah. It is
And that's
interesting.
what people don't get.
Yeah, I wanted to go into a couple of other topics, but I want to really quickly ask about, Erica, your wife, she's an attorney, right?
Yes.
And now, does that help you in any way looking at all these businesses? Does she have any insights on your stuff, or no? She stays away from those.
She doesn't stay away. She has great insight. I wouldn't
Hmm.
marry her because I needed a woman
Yeah,
smart,
yeah, yeah,
smarter than me.
yeah.
Okay. But somewhat. She's got, I mean, we talk about stuff, and yes, because well, in fact, we sold a business, right? And I had to have her there. We sold one of our bars, right?
Yeah.
And one time I sold it without her, got ripped off. So I
Yeah.
was like, wait, you need to come to this closing with me. Now it's very relaxing because she's looking over all the stuff. And because that's what attorneys do. You got to have your person at the table. So she looking at the because a lot of real estate investors take her to the closing with it because she's just real estate and family law, business
Yeah.
law, immigration. So that's the kind of stuff she does here in PA. And so you want to have somebody that's looking at that stuff because you don't know. You got to stay in your lane. Like I know what I don't know. So I don't talk about wills. I don't talk about legal stuff with clients. I just know enough to be dangerous. And I say, here, meet so and so.
Mhm.
Right. You hear
Yeah.
if they're in Pennsylvania, that's where she's barred. Meet my wife. And then I've got, I take a team approach. So I have people all across the country to help people with trust, to help people with their property insurance, to help people with taxes, to help people with mortgages. I kind of take a macroeconomic view and I'm the macro advisor, but then I
Sure.
give people specialists.
Yeah, that sounds good, man. Yeah. And do you go into just for listeners for fun, can you talk about like the last business you bought or the first whatever business? I
So
just want
no,
to
let's clear. I
yeah.
don't buy. I haven't bought them yet because
Okay.
most of mine's I'm building because I want to look at it, but I have what they call shiny object syndrome.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And so I want a laundromat. I want this, I want that, but my business still has room to run.
Mhm.
So, people will talk about multiple streams of income, but I still have seven-figure potential in the ones I have. So I don't need to buy anything
I
else
see.
yet.
So what kind of business do you have? You're talking about your
So I
coaching and
have
stuff?
my financial services business,
Okay.
which is can be high profit, low overhead.
Yeah. Yeah,
The
sure.
intellectual property business I'm building. Now from
Uh-huh.
that, I want other stuff.
I see. Okay.
You know what I mean? But I have a platform where I can generate money. I probably will buy like this starting this quarter and then next year 8 to 10 rental cars for Turo hire car. Like,
Oh,
so,
nice. Yeah, that's cool.
I mean, you want to, because see, people think they need all this money, folks, guys, you need a
Hmm.
cash machine. So I challenge people to what can you get into for I had a guy borrow against his insurance, since you're familiar with what I'm talking about, right? And I
Hmm.
saw a loan come through. So
Yeah.
we called and he borrowed, and we were talking about the rental car thing. Because I always challenge my people, what are you doing to make more money? What are you doing to get money in addition to your W-2? So he bought a car on hire for he borrowed 8 grand. He found a 2010 Nissan Sentra for 6 grand. He bought it, he put on hire car for $38 a day. It was rented out in 2 days. The guy kept the car
Mm.
a month and a half, right? And so, but let's say if he just rented out for 25 days out the month, that's over $900. So that's actually cash flowing more than his rentals. So
Yeah.
guess what? I show him how to pay the loan off. What did he do? He bought another one.
Hmm. Okay, I
Okay.
see.
I just sent him 3 people that want to do it. So he's going to consult with them, joint venture with them, and he's making $2,000 or $3,000 a month being joint venture partners with a couple other people. Right. So that again, that's his intellectual property generating around 4 grand a month. Right.
Yeah.
So it doesn't take, so a lot of times you already have the skills that to make money, but even buying a business. So if you want to do that, then there's podcasts on it. There's Jay Abraham has a great book called what is it called? It's by him and his business buying guide. It's the latest book by Jay Abraham. And so you gotta, investing is about becoming something. It's not about buying something, right? So it's become, then do, then have. And so
Yeah.
if you want to do that stuff, then you've got to, okay, hopefully I piqued your interest, but y'all got to go do the research. So that's what people don't want to do. oh, I can't save and I want to spend $500 out for, oh, okay. Then if you're happy broke, I'm happy for you. Okay. Because you can't win that way. Success leaves clues. People live within or beneath their means. They not sacrifice, but you go through seasons. So you're going to work. There's no such thing as work-life balance. Then you're going to save. You're going to buy or learn to buy assets, and then you'll grow out of that, right? And that's what you have to do. So there's no shortcut to that. There's no shortcut to winning. It's discipline and work, okay, and time.
Yeah, and talking about investing, I know you had you have three fundamentals or something, right? What do you
Right.
have
So
those?
so
Yeah.
our three rules. So I teach the 5 principles we talked about and the three
Mhm.
rules of investing. This is what keeps me out of trouble, right?
What are the five? Let me write it down.
Oh, so the 5 principles are: save
Uh-huh.
15% or more of your gross income.
Uh-huh.
The second principle is maximum protection, right? So think of a castle. What you'll find if you like watch Game of Thrones, where they always have a moat around the castle, right?
Yeah,
To
sure.
keep out invaders and people. So the moat is your liability coverages on your auto, home, and umbrella policies, disability insurance. So you're going to transfer life insurance, trust, LLCs, that's asset protection. So all that's the moat. So the second principle is maximum protection. And when I work with people, we go into each of those in detail, and I either do them or refer somebody to do them. But we want to make sure the foundation is saving and protect so that you don't go backwards, right? So a lot of people want to skip that step because that's not sexy, but that's your foundation. My third principle is legacy, full replacement of assets at death guaranteed, right? So we want people to have permanent insurance. We want people to have wills and trusts so that you pass on a legacy of wealth, tax efficient wealth, and the knowledge to go with it. Okay. Otherwise, a fool and their money are soon parted. That's our third principle. The
Mhm.
fourth principle is liquidity, right? 6 to 12 months of cash. Now we store that, some of it in high yield savings, like the first month or so, and then the bulk of it, we teach people to store it in their properly structured policies, plurals. I have clients like 15 of them, right? Because they don't see it as insurance, they see it as a place to store cash. Like when you get paid, your money's going into somebody's bank, but why not yours? Banking as a concept of creating a pool of capital that you control. Okay.
Mhm.
Chris says all you have to do is change one thing of where you put the money when it comes into
Yeah,
your
that's
account,
true.
right?
Yeah.
And so that's liquidity. And then all I've done is taken the banking and I just put a financial planning wrapper around it based upon the principle, because I found that sometimes people skip steps, and my process makes sure that we create the foundation first. And the fifth one is velocity. So I have a little one-page financial plan we create for people, and then we I I look at net worth, but net worth is really a lag indicator. What you want to look at is, one, we focus on what is your investment income,
Mm-hmm.
and then what is your business income. And so on our chart, the business income comes from the net profits off of P&L. And so those are things you can control. So there's 3-4 ways to grow revenue of your business. You want to focus on every quarter, let's say, are you growing your passive income? Are you acquiring assets? And then I want people to look at, all right, what's that book? The gap in the gain. So what you want to do is you have to measure your progress backwards, right? So is where I was January 2024. Instead of, like, I had this goal and you were being short, you're short of your goal and you're bummed out, you're in the gap, right? Because you're measuring yourself against the ideal instead of measuring the progress you've made. Like you might have had zero passive income in January, but now you got 1,500. Well, that's amazing. But you're
Mm-hmm.
beating yourself up because you wanted 5,000. Well, but you make progress,
Yeah.
and you got to celebrate that and then move forward over the next quarter and move forward. So that's the 5 principles.
Yeah.
You want to talk about going deeper there? Is that so we laid
Yeah.
that down?
Yeah. So now people understand the basics, because
Yeah.
without this, you can't build wealth. Like, if you,
Right. Those are principles. Like they're
yeah,
not my principles. They're
they're
Ray
like
Dalio
the
says
Babylon book.
everybody has
Yeah.
principles they work by. Otherwise, you would every time you saw something, it was like you seeing it for the first time. So you've got to have your money rules and your principles. Most people, Jim Rohn says, most people don't have a money problem. They have a philosophy problem, right?
Yeah.
And so what's your philosophy about money? So mine is save, protect, legacy, liquidity, and velocity, right?
We got the wealth
And
stuff now.
yeah. And so now the 3 rules of investing.
Yeah.
Rule number 1, invest in what you know.
Have you thought about investing in real estate and taking advantage of all of those benefits without any of the work? That is something that OnVinvest not only provides, but has been providing since its inception. With friends and family, we have built an empire and a system of a wealth generating tool that is giving us and our friends and family that leverage in their life to create true wealth. Go to onvinvest.com for more to see if you qualify. And thanks for listening.
So what do I know? My businesses. Okay. And so if I can take $1, so what people do is they're in business owners take $1 and they'll put up, $25,000 in a SEP to save $10,000 in taxes. So you're writing a $30,000 check or $25,000 check to save 10. It makes an entire money up for 30 years, right? Whereas your best investment is back into the business. If you put $1 in marketing and you make $2, guess what? That's 100% return. You can't get that nowhere else. So you want to look at your number one investment is the business, right? Your number one asset is you, right?
Yeah, I
And
never thought about it like that. That's interesting. You put $1 and you got $2 back.
what is that, right?
That's,
And so
that's
can you
100% ROI.
well, right? And so why would I send money to the stock market and put my money at risk, maybe to
5%.
get 6%, 5%, right?
Yeah.
And with risk.
With risk, yeah.
Yeah. And so where I understand, like if you saw your business, like Jay Abraham calls it, you see your business as like a little hedge fund and use little levers you can pull, buying other companies and, adding on a new product line, adding on membership sites. I mean, so people don't look at their business like that. It's a money machine and you got to figure out how to get the most out of it. Stop treating it like a job. Right. So that's one, invest in what you know or invest in knowing. Right. So when I want to know if I'm not willing to, like people ask me, what do you think about crypto? That's a club question, by the way. Right. That's a club. Right. What do you think about it? I have got 3 books on it. I can't get myself to finish. So I don't do it because I don't earn it. I got people that are killing it. I got 2 people I know that are killing. I don't know a lot of people, but I have people that are really making money with it, but they study it. They've been studying it for 5 years. They got into it early. So they're not gambling, not buying it, hoping it goes up. They want to take a flyer. They're trading it like Forex and they understand all aspects. They're going to Amsterdam or to Europe to conferences, 3-day conferences on crypto. And so they're invested in knowing. So it's not risky for them, right? Investing is not risky. Being uneducated is risky. So you got to invest in being on top of your game with that thing. And see, most people don't want to be, right? Because becoming or transformation is work and everybody wants an easy button. So that's rule number 1, invest in what you know. Okay. Or even if you're doing syndications, then you need to know the operator. You got to invest because you're investing in the operator, right? How do they work in down markets? Have you ever had this, cap rates are down or the occupancy is down, so the banks may not refinance at what you were expecting to get. And now there's what's it called? What do they call it? A call where you need more money where you need more money because you can't get the money out and you can't refinance. Well, how are they dealing with that? Like that's the kind we don't know how to do proper due diligence. So they throw money at it like a mutual fund, but these are illiquid investments. So you got to have enough liquidity outside of that. So that 50,000 you gave them is not your last 50,000. Right? So invest in what you know. Rule number 2, invest in what you can control the outcome of. Can you control the outcome? Does it cash flow? Can you influence the performance of it? All right. So does it cash flow within 90 days or of you purchasing it, owning it? Right. Because as you get your money back, guess what's happening? Your risk is going down as you get your return on your capital back. right? What does Mr. Wonderful always know on Shark Tank? How soon, if I put money in this deal, how soon am I getting my money back with friends? So if he's getting his money back, he's getting his return of capital. So his risk is going down, but that deal is still throwing off income and equity. And he's got his money back. So he can do what? Put it somewhere else and then get it back out and put it somewhere else. That's velocity of money, folks. So you want to be in the velocity business, not the accumulation business. Okay. And the third one is don't chase returns. See, most people chase returns. They, oh, I'm getting. I just talked to this doctor, great guy. It's like, oh, I'm gonna get 10% on my equities. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And they think, well, I'm averaging. Average doesn't mean jack. Okay, I can show you how to average 25% and not make a dime. Right? I have a video somewhere on my YouTube channel.
Wait, what does that mean? I don't understand. How can you make 25 and not make a dime?
So, check it. There's a video. I'll try to send it to you. You can link to it.
Okay, cool.
What happens is
you got me with that one. I'm like, oh, what is that?
So think about this. If you earn, hope I don't butcher this, because I don't show it that often. I record it and I don't present every day. I really show it in all my client meetings because they still think, first of all, mutual funds don't earn compound interest, right? So
okay. I got you.
Right. So they go up, they appreciate the depreciate. So if it goes, let's say it's up, you got $10,000 and it drops to 5,000, right? So you gotta earn, correct me if I'm wrong, 100% to get back to 10,000.
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
So you haven't made any money, right?
And mutual funds, they make money on how much money they manage, not on how much money you make.
That's right. And see, so that doesn't. So and what they do is they always advertise, well, we've got 10 billion under management. We want, because they're in the fee business, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't. How does that help you, right? So when you look at all of them, all financial institutions, there's nothing wrong with them because you need them because they can do stuff. They're 100-year-old, they got billions of dollars, you get economies of scale, but you have to make them work for you. Because here are the 4 rules of every financial instrument created by the institutions. They want your money, right? So they're trying to track you to put their money in the institution. They want it on a regular basis, like every pay period. Like a 401k, they want to keep it as long as possible, and they want to give it back as slow as possible, if ever.
And they want to penalize you if you want your own money back.
That's right. That is, so the government's in bed with them because the government gets to, you're the government mule because they get to piggyback because they can't invest in the stock market, but they can, when you see your 401k balance, let's say at $1 million, well, that's not all your million, right? Because you got to take 30% off for the government, right? So it's really 700,000, right? Because you got to pull that you're not saving money on taxes, you're deferring taxes. The taxes still got to get paid. Just, I'm saving money on my taxes. No, you're not. You're just really, that more accurate word is postponing them.
Yeah, I recommend people, if they can, do like a Roth 401k or a Roth IRA because you pay the taxes up front. And then you put in 10 grand after, 50 years is worth 1 million. That's tax free. 401k, on the other hand, you put in 10 grand and then it's $1 million. You paid $300,000 tax on the 10 grand. It's just crazy.
Exactly. So, like I said, that's a step in the right direction. But guess what's even better?
Yeah.
A properly structured, if you qualify for it, a properly structured dividend paying whole life insurance. Because the 7702 laws of where the Roth is comes from, that is how life insurance is governed, right? Money goes into IRA and insurance after tax. So it's not a creature of the tax code because insurance predates the tax code by 100 years, right? So I ask people, would you rather have your capital stored in a joint account with the Treasury Department or in a free contract with other free people in an entity that predates the IRS by 100, maybe 150 years? I got to get the exact time. But, the IRS code started in 1913 after they created the Federal Reserve. So you want to, plus the insurance gives you permission to spend. You got, for y'all, people that love the market, it gives you a volatility buffer. You can collateralize it and still buy the same thing you were going to buy with your Roth or your self-directed IRA, but you still have your money growing and you have insurance and you're earning dividends. So you can make that dollar do more than one thing at the same time. So it's just like a financial Swiss Army knife.
Yeah. What do you tell people? So let's say, we'll take a very simple example. I put in 50 grand whole life. I pull out 40 grand in a month because that's how much you can pull out. And then I buy a car, and then now I just make payments to myself to pay off that 40 grand. So at the end of 5 years, I have a car and I have my money back. But then, but you had 40 grand in the beginning anyway. So it's not like you got free money. It's just different, right? How do
Yeah, I
you
mean, it's
counter that?
not insurance is not a magic money box.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's break it down. So
Sure.
you paid 40,000 in cash for the car. So now 5 years later, what do you have? You have no money and a car worth 5 grand.
Sure.
Okay.
Hmm.
So if you use your policy, your money over that 5 years is still in the policy because you didn't take it out. You didn't borrow your own money. You borrowed the insurance company's money. You just collateralize your money. So you
Yeah.
still get growth. You still get the car. You should make a payment plan back just as if you use BMW Motor Financing or GMAC financing.
Hmm.
That's being an honest banker because you're not borrowing your own money. You're not paying yourself back. You're paying back the insurance company because you
Sure.
borrowed their money. Like that's important because people gloss over that. And
Hmm.
so because if you're paying yourself, if you're borrowing your own money, why would you pay interest on that? That's the next logical thought to that. Why am I borrowing my own money? You're not. So once you got to understand that distinction, and then so what happens is at the end of the day, you've got your 40 plus whatever the growth of the policy was. You still have the car that's worth 5 grand, let's say, and you still have your capital to use again. And then you got enough, you might have 50 in the account because it's not a one-time deposit. You're paying for it every year. And because it's where you're storing your cash. So every year you should be putting new money in it. So you're building up capital. And then what you can do is systematically either buy back the 35 cents every dollar you're spending using somebody else's financial institution, or you can buy what are the four asset classes that make up investment: business, real estate, paper assets. So paper could be trading, but paper is we've got clients that do notes, that do
Sure.
private lending,
Yeah.
that do life settlements, that do
Yeah.
tax liens, right? So whatever you can think of, you just need. But a lot of those things you need liquidity, and they cash flow, but you need some money to do them. And so that's what you got to do. You got to get outside the box, even to do syndications, to loan you money to get into your deals. They need to have stored their money somewhere
Hmm.
so they can
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah, man, that's very interesting. Yeah, so for the listeners who are not as familiar, we're so cracked out on this, but the
Right.
real key, I'm like
I
just
love
like,
talking about it, but a
yeah,
lot of times I don't go that deeper into it. But I would say get the book. I'll give you
yeah.
2 books on that, 3 books. So you start with the person that started the whole thing, Becoming Your Own Banker by R. Nelson Nash.
Mm-hmm.
Like I won't even work with people if they haven't read the book. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I was just with Garrett Gunderson this weekend. I like his book, What Would the Rockefellers Do?
Mm-hmm.
And then Nelson has another book called Building Your Warehouse of Wealth. Wealth has got to be stored somewhere. And because it's not an investment play, it's not a tax play. It's just the question I'm answering is where do you store your liquidity, right?
Yeah.
So that you can buy or build cash flowing assets. So it's just money's going somewhere. Where do you store it? That's the only question we're asking. So I'm not comparing it to an investment. It's not an investment. When you look at insurance, what do you compare it to? Savings accounts, CDs, money markets. That's comparing apples to apples, right? Your mattress. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's where investments is a whole other thing. Mutual funds is a whole other thing. So what people do is like, oh, I can get, or even if say dumb stuff now, like I could get 4% in my high yield account. Okay. But that rates are going to go down because that same high yield account paid 1 point nothing 3 years ago.
Sure.
Right. And so, but if you lock it in a policy, even though it's not about rates of return. See, the first chapter of the book, Nelson tells you this is not about rates of return. It's not about investments of any kind. It's about the fact that you finance everything you buy, and somebody needs to control the banking function in your life, and it might as well be you. That's what the
Yeah.
book's about. And so you got people that are out there on the YouTubes and on the IGs selling it like they think the bank is the life insurance. It's not.
It is
That's a whole other talk, right? But
yeah, it's a whole other talk. But for just for I'll break it down what you're saying so people can understand is you go back to the car example, at the end of the year 5 years, if you bought a BMW from BMW Finance, you're out all of the money, and then
plus the interest.
the car is worth $5,000, right? But if you used your own policy, you would have paid it back, and you have a policy, and the net, between the amount of money that you're paying for the loan and then how it's compounding at the 50 grand that you originally had, there's a slight net positive, and that's what we're talking about. And we're not even bringing up the fact that it's a life insurance policy. In case you died during that, your mom or your sister or your wife or your daughter is going to get the life insurance. So that's the real key, and that's why I got into it.
That's the
So,
most important thing is the
yeah.
insurance component of it. It's not about arbitrage. It's not about rates of return. It's not about all this BS people think it's about. That means they don't
Yeah.
understand the system.
Yeah.
And they don't, because they think it's about, oh, I can get better return over here. It's not about rates of return. And that's why you have to do your homework. That's why I made people read the book, because you're getting on a very superficial level. People who think it's about insurance, get it on insurance agent, call themselves doing it. They don't understand it. They just get, oh, I got a better product. I'm smarter than Nelson, who studied Austrian economics for 50 years. That's where this whole thing comes from. So you got to understand the economic principles that birth this, that most people, because they think too short term and they're too lazy, don't understand.
Yeah, and there's I know we have to go.
That's too harsh.
No, it's good. It's very I'm very blunt, so that's why people
Okay.
like me or don't like me, whatever.
Right,
I'd rather be liked and disliked, so the people who like can actually take what we're talking about.
Right.
I want to help other people. But the one thing that the last question I wanted to ask you was, we did talk a little bit about Dave Ramsey. A lot of the stuff you're seeing, other than the whole life stuff, is very similar to Dave. But you do say that you see some flaws with like the debt snowball method and stuff. Can you go a little bit on that? Talk a little bit.
Dave. So what happens is you have to decide what you want to be when you grow up. Dave is great for a segment of people that they're a mess. They're spendthrift. They're in debt. They're in consumer debt. So Dave is good to getting you what I call the zero, meaning that when you go into debt, you're below the tabletop. So when you pay the debt off, people say they want to be debt free. All I hear is you're working your way to zero. You have nothing, you owe nothing, right? And then he says, well, pay cash for everything. So you have to save first to pay cash, and then you got to liquidate. Boom, you're back to zero. And so it doesn't account for opportunity cost. So even with the snowball method, so if you do, so we have a program called Debt Free for Life. And it's right out of I forget the chapter, but in The Richest Man in Babylon, there's a chapter on getting out of debt. It's called Perpetual Wealth Formula, I heard people call it. It's 10, 20, 70. So save 10%, to apply 20%. So pick a budget, pick 20%, and you're going to snowball the debt, but you got to pay yourself first, right? And then you'll systematically, if you make more money, you'll pay more, but you'll also save more. And then because you didn't get into it overnight, you're not going to get out of it overnight. So people are trying to it took you 6 years to get into this mess. You're not going to get out of it in 3 months. That's what you got to give yourself a little grace. Now, what we've done, because the problem with the debt snowball is this: if you just focus on getting out of debt, okay, you're out of debt. How much money do you have? None, because that wasn't the focus. You're out of debt. So now the institution has all your money. So what if you could flip that? You could build in. This is how the book came from. This is what Nelson Nash did. He owed $500,000 that went from 8 to 23%. And so what he did was, he said, where can I get money? He says, I already used to paying, I don't know, $20,000 year insurance. So he decided, all right, I've got to, this is what most people miss it. They miss this part of the book. He said, look, I got to rearrange my finance. He started paying $100,000 a year in insurance premium. And it took him 13 years, but he built up enough money in his cash value that he did what? He borrowed, paid off he calls them the snakes and dragons. And then on his terms, at not at 23%, at 6 or 8%, he paid himself back. He had windfalls. He sold properties, when he did a flip or something like that, he had a place to put the money. And so what we do is we have a program where I'll line up all your debt. We'll do the same debt snowball, but instead of you're snowballed and the money's gone, your debt is gone, but you have no money, we'll fund your policy, right? Properly structured. We'll take loans. And so we'll look at, okay, you got this $1,500 credit, you got $2,500, you got three. So let's say we have, $10,000 of cash value. So let's take a loan. Let's pay off that $8,000. And I'm going to take the same payments that you're willing to give the Visa, MasterCard, and I'm going to create an auto pay back to the insurance company. Right. So, because I ain't trust you. What I used to do it, and I would trust people to pay it off, and they didn't. But within 3 months, they didn't jack it all up. So now I'm not even leaving the chance. I'm going to set up the auto pay. And then, but since you're paying an interest only loan at 4%, you're going to pay it off faster. It's a more efficient way to pay for it. And guess what? When that's paid off, what do? Take another loan and we go back to report, we pay off the rest of it. So what happens is usually we can get people out of debt 3 years, 2-3 years, 8 years, even with the mortgage if you want to.
Wait, so who's fronting the money though?
You are, because what happens is this. All right, so I'm skipping a part. So what we're going to look at is you already have money, right? So let's say you're paying $1,000 a month, because what people do is they pay the minimum payment and then I send them an extra 150 over time.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, right? People do that.
So what happens is what you got to do is you got to look at it. What's the minimum payment? And then we're going to, instead of spreading it out, dissipating the effect, we're going to pick one and then add it one at a time. So if you got $100 payment and we freed up $400 just by looking at how you're paying the debt, then we're going to send that $500 on that one debt. That's a traditional debt snowball. What we're going to do is we're going to put that $500 in the policy, right? But see, here's the work. So this is what we do that's different. I help people find the money. So we're going to help you manage your cash flow. We're going to find money there. We're going to, how can we increase your net paycheck? So most people are over withholding their taxes. So if you get a refund, that means your W-4 is filled out wrong, for example. Okay. So your people that don't feel they can save, you got to go back and look at your wealth transfer. So you've got debt at 23%, and effective rate of what the money really costs you is like 29 and 30. And you got money you're hoping to get 6% on. Hey, you could, not giving advice, just an idea, look at your money, say, okay, what's the highest, best use of my money? I got all this money over here, costing me a lot of money. I'm putting in 12% into my 401k, but they only match me to 4. Maybe I could lower the match temporarily so that I can free up some capital so that I can save and build up equity so I can buy back my debt. You see what I mean? And so most people they have to sit back and look at your money. Do you need every cable channel? Now, I don't usually like to cut people back, but you don't need to be spending $300 a month on cable. You got Hulu, you got this, You need to pick your favorite. And really, if you're not making $100,000, you shouldn't be watching TV.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, you need to be reading a book, going to listen to a podcast, and doing other forms of entertainment that get you out of this mess. Right.
That's cool. Yeah.
And every time I say that, my kids or my wife says, "You can't say that." Yes, I can say that because if you're not making $100,000, you don't need to watch TV. Honestly, my daughter will ask me, "What did you see? Did you watch such and such?" No, I ain't got time to do that.
Yeah.
So
that's
anyway,
funny. Yeah,
that's but that's how you do it. So what you got to do is you got to take apart your income statement, right? Most wealth. Remember what I started with: cash flow control. Most wealth is lost by how people manage or don't manage cash flow, and then you work backwards through the transfers, fees you're overpaying for, right? Taxes, your number one wealth transfer. So if you have a side hustle, there's a book called look at my bookshelf, Lower Your Taxes Big Time by Sandy Bakken, right? So if you have a side hustle, whether it's Uber or whatever, that's a business. You get 1099. So now you can engage in income shift. You can write off the car, the mileage, your cell phone, part of your apartment or your house because you got a home office to do the books. Get with your tax person. But in the first chapter of the book by Sandy Bakken, attorney, CPA, okay, I used to train IRS agents. He says that, listen, if you don't have a home-based business, you are brain dead. That's chapter 1, quote unquote, or you're a brain dead. Okay. He says just having the business, you got to try to make money, right? But could save you $6,000 or $8,000 a year in taxes. He calls it strategy income shifting, right?
Mhm.
So, you got to dig in. You got to want to take control of your money. That's my message. I'm not, you got to, don't take my word for it. That's why I throw out books for people, because you got to want to do the work. Now, if you don't want to do the work and all this stuff seems too complicated, then okay, go to your job, fund your 401k, call your cousin in Primerica. No, just kidding. But you just keep doing what you're doing, because you're not ready to be a real investor yet. You ain't
Yeah.
been beat up enough yet.
Yeah, that's true. Sometimes, I was just talking to
And
someone.
don't call me, because I can't help you, because I'm not going to talk you out of, I don't have that energy. Like, people come to me, they already know they want work optional income, and they know their thing is not working. That's who should call me, right? Because I'm not going to convince you that mutual funds are the best things in sliced bread, and you need to buy term investor difference. And I've been in business long enough to know that doesn't work. That's a mistake, but you got to figure it out.
Yeah, it is very important to know. I learned through experiences. In the beginning, I'll try to really, because I was so energized, cracked out about all these things. I'll try to convince people like, hey, you got to do this, that. And nobody gave a crap. And then I eventually figured out, you know what, I'm going to create my podcast and then my, meetup. And then if you're interested, you could come there. And I'm
Your
not
people
going
will find you.
my people will find me.
People looking for what you're doing. So you just need to make yourself available so they can find you.
This funny. I'll do this, and then I'll tell you this little small story, and then I'll ask to plug your stuff you're doing. It sounds very interesting to me. Is that I was talking to this one friend of mine, and she was asking all these advice about how to create S corp and all these things and business and stuff. And I said, hey, I have 80 episodes of podcasting, which costs me thousands of dollars a year because of my time, and I pay my Miriam, who edits my podcast. And then she said, well, I don't really have the time to listen to your podcast. And then I said, well, I don't really have time for this conversation. And I just walked away.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's just like, why would I talk to you? You're a freaking moron. You don't even want to take the time to listen to what we're talking about. And, it's not about me and my podcast. It's because I have Curtis, I have, Neil or whoever, there's much smarter people out there, and they're giving their time to educate people. And if you don't want to listen to us, why would I talk to you? I don't have time for this,
Right. That's why I do this.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So I have people go hear me on like a show like yours, go back and listen to 10, 15 hours of my show. And they're like, okay, he's a little bit crazy, but I think I like him. But now they know what to expect, because they'll say, I'm just like I am now. If you talk to me, and if I get excited, I'm going to talk to you with the same energy level that I talk to about on the show.
I can tell you're very similar, or even more than me, is because when you said, I'm not going to talk to you if you don't read Neil Nash's book, right? I know you're on the same wavelength, because and Chris Noggle, he says the same thing. I am not going to get on the call if you don't read my mapping book,
I have his book. It's really good. Yeah.
And his people, when they call and you say, I haven't read it yet, they said, I will call you back next week, and they hang up. They don't talk to you. You have to read the book.
I'm going to start doing that. Yes, that's brilliant. Start doing that.
Yeah. So now, Curtis, I know I've kept you long enough. Thank you so much for your time. I want to ask you, if people want to get in touch with you, do they, where do they go? Do they go to Practical Wealth Solutions? So how do they, and what do you offer?
You could go to practicalwealthsolutions.net. I want to give y'all, I have a gift.
Is it .net or .com? I have .com.
It's .net. Let's see.
Did it change it? Okay.
Yeah, I think they all point there. Right. Okay. You could go to curtismay.com. It'll put you there too. So, where's it? curtismay.net. I think it's curtismay.com. And, or if you go to my Instagram and just go to my link tree, it'll take you there. Okay. You can make an appointment to talk to me, but I always say you might want to start with, check out the Practical Wealth Show podcast. Just go to YouTube or iTunes so you can find out more about what I call the madness that is Curtis. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then uh we'll create my assistant's off. I'm gonna create a gift website for your listeners. I'll send it to you when we talk
Okay.
after the call. But if they will text, I have a special report. I'm big into liquidity, right? So
Yeah.
I have a report called The Value of Liquidity, where we show you case studies of if you have money and using the insurance to create leverage and what that liquidity will do for you
Yeah.
as a business owner, as an investor. And I'll send that report to you if you will text Be the Bank. So BETHEBANK, all caps, all one word. Okay, Be the Bank. To 55444.
Okay.
So the short code is 55444, and then in the message put Be the Bank, and it should shoot out. We'll say hi, and then we'll be a couple of interchange. Then we'll email you the report.
Okay.
Okay.
That sounds
And
good.
so that's a good way to get a hold of me. If you go to website, I've got links all over the place. I have a little webinar. And if you see on the top corner, it'll say Be the Bank. And we'll walk you through our lesson I recorded called the Private Reserve Strategy, on talking about what we've been talking about with the banking and the life insurance. If you want to, go through it's about an hour talk where I go try to throw everything in it but the kitchen sink, so I have a pretty good idea about what we're talking about. And if you'd like to have a conversation about that, or if you really would like to do some legacy planning, or if you're saying, Curtis, I don't know where my money goes, you can, reach out and we'll take you through a cash flow mapping exercise that I think will be very important for you, because the game is won and lost with cash flow management, cash flow control. And that's where it starts, because you can't do any of this stuff if you can't spend less than you make and put aside some money, because that's the first step.
Yeah. Thank you so much, man. This was really exciting and fun for me. And, listeners who are listening, don't feel bad listening to this at least twice, because there's a lot of stuff in here and it takes a while. The only way I'm able to keep up with this was I was cracked out for 6 years doing all this stuff. And
Right.
I have questions still. So, you're not going to get all of it if you just listen to it once. So I would recommend listening
Yeah,
to it
hopefully you'll
twice.
you'll listen into your show. You'll follow me. You
Yeah.
can have a call, but just listen to the show. And I try to. I'm actually this quarter. I'm just going to talk about this stuff because I have a lot of guests, and it's like, all right, I need to just let people know I'm a really good financial strategist, right? So I'm
Mhm.
just going to talk about like basic stuff,
Yeah.
probably, and maybe bring one guest on a month, but I'm going to really just
Yeah,
teach.
I heard you on my buddy's podcast. Oh, I keep forgetting his name. The bald white guy. What's his name? He's from LA too. You just did it. You just came out.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, Brent. Is it Brent?
Yes, I
Yes.
believe
Yeah.
so. Hmm.
Yeah. He's a cool guy.
Good guy.
So
Yeah, I've
yeah.
interviewed with a few bald white guys. No, just kidding.
Yeah. And
I can think of
I'm
three as
I'm
you
bald
mentioned
too.
that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah, he's local.
um, but it's cool when because I love talking about this stuff. So, like, y'all are really getting to listen in to us nerding out on this stuff, and you just get to listen in on. That's really what the show has been, and
Yeah.
which I enjoy, and just the interplay. And I think you get to learn a lot, as you listen to the people that you're interviewing, as we listen. And like, I try to just get people, like, success leaves clues. Like, so I'll point out when I hear the 3 rules of investing when they're talking about it, and I'll stop you. I
Hmm.
had this guy that was a debt fund. I said, listen to what he said. He invested what he knows. He doesn't lose money. He invested. If he can't control it, he doesn't understand it, he don't buy it. This guy has a debt fund where he's average paying 9% monthly check secured by real estate for the last 15 years.
Nice, man. I like that. And if
You know
you
what I mean?
ever,
So that's what you got to listen for, that stuff. But he started out with flipping duplexes. You know what I mean? So everybody starts somewhere.
yeah. And Curtis, if you have any questions, about getting into real estate or anything, reach out, email me, and then I'll whatever you need, if you want me to underwrite a deal or whatever you got going on.
I will. Don't
Yeah.
worry. See,
But buy
the other
buy
part
buy
of
a
this
house
show is
every
paying
year. You'll
rent.
be good.
Yeah, I want to buy a house, a bit
Yeah.
too, really, because I'm old.
Yeah, yeah. Is this your home you're living in? You own that home or?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so you could just buy, I would recommend for you is just buy another home. You move in. You don't even need money for $1 million home. You need 50 grand. I know you have 50 grand, so that's it. and you just
Okay.
buy one every couple
I
of years
listen,
and you're
my
good.
house is in a great, I don't even want to go anywhere else because I got to
Oh,
buy
really?
everything else. But I want other stuff, but I don't want to live. I'm in a great, in the area, it was, I'm not going to name it, but the US, some magazine said I was in a number 3 or 4 town in the
Oh,
country.
nice, man.
So it's
Yeah.
like, so I'm good.
The only reason I was saying for you to move was if you don't move, then you would have to put 20-25% down. But if you do want to live in the house, you don't really need that much money. You only need
Oh, yeah,
5%.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So that's why.
I'm not talking about that stuff. I don't want to move, but I can get the 20%.
Oh yeah, then it's fine, you know.
Yeah.
It's a little bit cheaper too. The loan will be a little bit cheaper if you moved in it. So the interest rates, they give you a discount.
I know,
Because
but I can't think of anywhere else I want to go.
yeah.
I like going out. Like my passion is travel, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I tell people live where you want to live and invest where the dollars make sense, right? Like I
Yeah,
wouldn't
that's true.
invest in Philly right now because I don't. The tenant landlord laws are
Oh, it's
jacked.
pretty blue, right? Pittsburgh. It might
It's
swing.
very
It's a swing,
blue.
right?
It's very blue. Like
Yeah.
the look, they came within one vote of passing what's it called, a tenant rent control.
Hmm.
1 or 2 votes in city council.
And they
And
passed it.
one time I was moderating an investment panel at an investment club, and I was like, well, and this guy asked me, he was a new investor. I said, well, what's wrong with that? I was like, okay, let's break it down. So y'all don't understand economics. So you're gonna mess around and vote against your interests. If
Yeah.
somebody tells you they're going to raise your unrealized capital gains by 35%, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's not a good look.
I'm
But
gonna make a post saying, "Hey, Taylor Swift, Kamala Harris got elected, your buddy. Now you owe 250 million in unrealized capital gains tax. She just wants to pass. You're not gonna like her no more."
that's right. And
Yeah.
see, you gotta see 50 Cent knows what the deal, right? And
Yeah.
so a lot
Kanye
of people
too.
they think that, but they're not gonna say it, right? But the thing is, you see, so I'll leave with this because this is a whole other hour.
Yeah, I know.
But the Jim Rohn says economics is major, right? And so another book I'd have y'all read is Economics in One Lesson. And so this Marxist socialist stuff that you don't even know that it is,
Mm-hmm.
it's never worked in the history of mankind.
And it never will.
It never will.
I mean, if
And
they like it so much, they could move to North Korea, China, or Russia,
right,
right?
exactly. You see it.
Yeah.
I got friends in Venezuela. When I
Yeah.
first went down there about almost 30 years ago now, they're like, oh, we got free college, we got this and that. It's like early 90s. Now it's a mess.
Yeah.
Beautiful country, right?
Yeah.
But they got oil. Can't even get the oil out the ground because of crony capital. It's not even cronyism. It's not even crony capitalism. It's
Yeah.
socialism. And they tried to you can't bend the laws of economics, right? So you can't say, well, all right, you're gouging. I won't allow any price increases on the supermarket. You can't decree that from the government. All you do is create black markets, right? And which is what you see in those countries. But see, we're insulated. More people don't travel nowhere, so they don't know that. But if you talk to people, I talked to this girl from I was at some event last weekend, and she was from Nicaragua. Well, she's seen this play before,
Mm-hmm.
because Nicaragua is it socialist or communist? But she's seen it, took all the guns away, and then their rations and their this and that. And
Yeah.
so you got to look at what is the result of policies. You got to understand the policy. And I always and with this, I teach people, look, you can't control the economy, but you can control your personal economy, which is your production and consumption as a family unit, right? And that's what you focus on. And so it doesn't matter who's in office, I'm going to win, but one will give me a tailwind, one will give me a headwind. Okay.
Yeah.
So I prefer the tailwind. I'm not going to say who, but
You know who.
right.
Everybody knows. This is a real estate channel.
Right. So I know if
Yeah.
people don't like, I got real estate, but I don't like him. I said, how are you not going to vote for the real estate president?
Yeah.
You know,
I know. I had
and
we did a election one episode last one. I did pros and cons, and my buddy Drew, I told him to wear a Harris head, and I had a MAGA head, but he forgot his, so I didn't wear the head. But yeah,
that's funny.
sometimes I wear it for fun.
But you got it, and so that's the fun of it. And so what you got to do is, guys, you got to be able to, you know, stop calling names. Everybody's got their opinion, and some people just don't know because they don't understand economics, and they don't they look at a person, but they're not understanding the policy. And so you've got to be able to have a conversation. See, a conversation means to discuss, means to thrash out. So I'm not mad at you if we have a disagreement. To me, that's interesting.
Yeah, to me too. Yeah, it is very interesting. And I
You
like to
know?
talk to people to have different views. Like I was telling, like I would rather have everybody vote in the election and then my party loses than only my party votes and they win, because that is not fun. Because I want everybody to, I would rather go campaign and try to convince the other people like, hey, this is what's going on, rather than just have a one party. Like that's why, I don't like totalitarian governments. I don't like people telling me what to do, taking away whatever, all your arms and stuff.
Well, and that's the
It's
promise.
interesting.
That's America. Limited
Yeah.
government,
Yeah.
representative. We don't have a democracy. We're supposed to have a republic, right?
Yeah, I
So
know. It's crazy.
you know what I mean? And so, but they took civics out of school, so nobody knows the difference. They're trying to get rid of electoral college, and it's all this stuff. And the founders thought that democracy equates to mob rule, and the majority could overrun the minority, and that's why you have a republic and representative government. Like, so the founders had already seen that play before, and they voted because they know man and government unconstrained will overreach. So they tried to put as many checks and balances in place as possible. And I think that people just don't, people that they're trying to tell you, paying more taxes is you're patriotic, but the Revolutionary War was started. It was a tax revolt.
Yeah, and it was like 1% tax or
For
something.
like 2% tax, right?
Yeah, it was crazy.
There's a movie called The Gambler, right, where John Goodman says King George was like an effing bargain right now, and there's a scene for there if you search it called FU, but it says the whole word out, and that's
Uh-huh.
I have a club called the Money for Life Club, so we call it the Cashflow there, and so the theme of my membership is getting to a position of FU, which is passive income twice your expenses. So my goal of everything we do is getting our people to the FU position, right, where you can do what you want when you want, and nobody can tell you what to do. And so that freedom has got to be a driving force. It is a driving force for me. So what do you work for? I want to be able to do what I want when I want, and I don't maybe get on my net jet because I don't want a plane because I'm too cheap, but I want to be able to get on my net jet, bypass TSA if I want to, and just go wherever the hell I want to go, right? And so you work so you can have options. I want my kids to have options, and I think most of your listeners, that's what they really want. So you got to
Yeah.
work at that.
I was watching this a long time ago. Stephen Colbert, the guy, the talk show guy. He had Nicki Minaj on there, and then he was asking, he asked like silly questions, and he was like, "Nicki, what kind of a plane seat do you like? Do you like the aisle or the window?" And she goes, "Of course the aisle. Sorry, of course the window seat. Who wants the aisle?" And he's like, "Well, if you want to go to the restroom or something, you have to skip over someone." And she looks at him and she goes, "Oh no, I don't go in those kinds of planes."
Right, exactly. Right. So
She was kidding, but she was not. She was serious.
not. That's right.
It was
That's
just
right.
and he was just like, he threw the questions away. He's like, what? It's just funny.
That's because you got
That's freedom.
that's freedom, right? And so as long as she doesn't blow her money,
Yeah.
she can do that forever from going forward because she should have made enough money that she can't blow it. And
She needs to talk to
that's what you
Magic.
and I want for our listeners, right? And so
Yeah.
you gotta get your mind right.
Yeah.
And you gotta block out most of the noise out there. Like I don't care what Taylor Swift thinks. She's a great singer. Most of these athletes, they're kids. They don't know anything about money or politics or whatever. They just, they're naive and don't really understand. Very few of them know what they're talking about. So actors and stuff, I don't care what they think. I'm not,
Yeah, I know.
don't get me started with that. You're out there in California. I could care less what they think.
Oh, I know. I mean, I can live here and I can care less. We have a lot of these different laws. Yeah, it's
I mean, you
interesting.
think about Arnold. You know what Arnold got here? I have a report on him. If y'all email me, because I can't think of the
Okay.
page called kurtman@gmail.com. It's like how be a real estate millionaire like Arnold, right? So a lot of people don't know Arnold took his bodybuilding earnings and he bought real estate. He had like 100 units.
Yeah. And
Apartment. It might have been an apartment. He had
he did
lots of
construction work and saved money, and then he bought real duplexes and like apartment buildings in Santa Monica.
Yeah, and so think about this. When he wanted to go into movies, he didn't want to like do all these bit roles. He's like, I want to be a star. I'm not changing my name. It's Schwarzenegger. But he could do that because he was already a multimillionaire.
Yeah, he said he was a millionaire by the time he went on to become a movie star.
Yeah, and so see, nobody knows that part of the story, but he came here from Austria not speaking the language for the American dream, which means he could come here, own private property, and that's why a lot of people come here and they get this, what we're here for. And a lot of people that grew up in here miss what America's all about. And so he came here so he was in the FU position when he started to do movies because he could say, listen, well, F you, I'm already a millionaire. But
I mean, I'm from India. I'm an immigrant too. So he comes from Austria. He's an immigrant. He looks weird. He's too big. And everybody told him he needs to lose the muscle because you won't get any movie. They told him to change his name. You're talking weird. He said, you'll never be a movie star. He goes on, does all of that, becomes the biggest movie star in the world, marries a Kennedy, becomes the governor of California in a totally blue state. He's the only Republican governor I know, wins the re-election, wins again. He's crazy. That guy is like the ultimate. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my man. Like I was in the Arnold when I was 9th grade, Pumping Iron came out, and I was a basketball player. My best friend was a wrestler. So we were lifting weights. We were in the Arnold before the movies came out. So but you might have to make a part 2 or do a B-roll of this. All this stuff we were lifting on. Yeah. But I gotta run. But listen, thank you so much for having me on. This was so much fun. Of just kicking it with you
about all kinds of other
off-topic stuff.
Yeah, if you ever come to California, hit me up. I have a few places here. I'll just let you stay here, and then I'll show you around and stuff.
Southern,
I live in Orange County, California, below south of LA.
You then, yeah,
yeah. It's a nice year. It's nice. Yeah, I can't complain. It's 70 outside. I'm gonna go outside now.
Yeah. Fortunately, it's 70 here, but if we're having this conversation in 3 months, you'll still be 70 and mine will be like -10.
Yeah.
So, but
Thank you, sir. Yeah.
I like meeting people. Now I got tax deductible places to travel because I can go see somebody I know and talk shop.
Yeah. So, thanks, Curtis. See you next time.
Brother. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. See you.
I don't know about you, but I definitely like to see 5-star reviews on any service or any product before I purchase. Please take a second to leave us a 5-star review, whether you're listening to it on Apple, iTunes, or Spotify, or whatever platform. Take a second, goes a long way, helps us a lot to grow the channel, and thanks for listening.